Okay, hello and welcome everybody to our webinar today. My name is John Golden from Sales Pop Online Sales Magazine and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from San Diego. And today we have got a fantastic panel lined up for you. And I'm going to introduce them one by one, and then we're going to get straight into this session because this is a really important one. AI and the impact on sales. We're broadcasting across all of our social platforms. This is a no hype zone. We brought in practical and practitioners who are going to help you. So whatever platform you're accessing this on, please let us know where you're coming from, and we will be able to maybe take some of your comments live. Okay, so let me introduce first of all. Welcome to Ryan. Welcome to Ryan Staley, who is from Whale Boss. Welcome, Ryan. You're muted. Welcome to Scott Sandlin, who is the CEO and founder of Serrano.ai.
How's it going?
And to Shanif Danani, who is a ChatGPT and data engineer, and Nicholas Kimla, who is the founder and CEO of Pipeliner CRM, and a serial entrepreneur. All
Good
right, so
morning.
morning, everybody. Okay, so what we are going to do now is we are going to start the webinar. As I said, this is a no hype zone, so please, if you have comments, put them in. Everybody, let us know where you're coming in from, and that way we can. If you've got any questions, we can probably get them answered. Those of you who submitted questions, thank you very much. We might get to those today, and if not, we'll get to them from email follow up. All right. So the format today is we're just going to have a long discussion about AI and sales. We're going to keep it very practical and real. And thank you all again for joining us. Okay. So what we're going to start with now, I'm going to start with the first question. I'm actually going to ask this first one actually to Scott, and that's when AI and all that kind of exploded on the scenes, the first thing a lot of people were thinking about was, let's automate everything, let's make everything easy, all of that. But so the question is, a lot of people talking about automating sales, customer service. Is that the right way to be thinking about the short and midterm phase of AI?
No, it is not. I mean, that will be a thing that we can do. And by the way, thank you for having me. Before I get into that, I'm really excited to be here. I think, yeah, automation is absolutely going to happen, but that can't be the way we're thinking about this. We can't just be thinking, how can I make this easy on me? How can I make this cheaper for the bottom line? That's what should get automated away, because that's the obvious thinking. And that's fine to do, but we need to really be thinking about how can we use these tools to make the experience better for our end users, customers, etc. So we need to be looking at how to make things better, because how to make things automated and easier is going to happen anyway. So let's not focus there. And that's the easiest thing to imagine is, oh, a computer doing it instead of a person, which is why we need to be auditing our KPIs and be thinking about how can I make my company, product, service, experience, whatever it is, better than it's ever been. What can we do now that wasn't possible before? And if we change our thinking to that, then when the automation comes anyway, we'll be doing more, not just doing less or the same amount with less effort.
Excellent. Ryan, what are some of the top outcomes that you've been able to generate using AI in sales?
Yeah, so I was blown away by this because I got introduced about in November of 22 to Dolly and used it. Actually, I had a guest on my podcast, introduced me to it, and then basically introduced me to Dolly, where I could type in a couple words and create graphics, very simple. So I started experimenting with it, and there's like 5 core outcomes that I've seen able to do within just the large language models. Now, there's a lot of different modalities, but large language models is like Bard or ChatGPT, just to make it super simple. And so there's 5 areas. One is like how to turn something that used to take me hours and get it done in minutes. Built out a whole sales department in 20 minutes, which would previously take about 8 hours. So that was one of the things. In terms of business acumen or like long-term skill development, there was things that took almost like a decade to learn from live experience, and just by asking the right questions, did that in days or actually seconds. Automated outcomes. I know Scott just mentioned that there are some amazing capabilities that are time sucks on the the existence of life, and then skills in seconds as well. What I mean by that is I never had the capability to be good at graphics. And I leveraged Midjourney and was creating amazing work on something that I had no capacity to do before. And last but not least, with Code Interpreter being released, on demand analysis. Basically, that's having an on staff analyst, and it's only in beta with ChatGPT, but basically, you could upload a CSV file and get a complete data analysis and have almost like a data scientist on staff to deconstruct trends and patterns that you see in data. So those are like the 5 core use cases that I'm seeing right now, amongst many, many others.
Yeah. And just a quick one, Ryan, how has it been? How is the reception of it when you're working with your customers?
Yeah, it's good. So I mean, like I would say it's amazing. Like the biggest epiphany that folks have is when they do something, and like it's not just my customers. I've used it with even like executives in other industries, right? And showed them what's possible. And then once they understand what's possible, then the wheels start spinning in their head. I think one of the biggest challenges, most people don't even know what's possible. They just hear all the hype train and the prompt bombs that happen. And so then they're just like, they don't go anywhere with it. But once you actually start using like tactical use cases, then that's when people get super excited, whether it be a customer, a friend, acquaintance, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And Nicholas, why do you think there are so many fears and anxieties? Because I mean, what we've heard so far sounds pretty positive.
Yeah, first of all, good morning. Probably you can realize that I'm not a native speaker, and so I'm looking forward to the AI that immediately turns my language skills into a perfection. So this is not out there, but we implemented something immediately in Pipeliner where you can write an email and it helps you because salespeople are not so good in emails and in the grammar and everything, and so we implemented it in our product. But I think it's there is a mixture on that because there is something like people don't like changes. Yeah. And when people don't like changes, they have fears. And many fears came up immediately because maybe I'm losing my job. And to be honest, yes, it will. Yeah. A lot of people will lose their jobs. Like, for instance, in my opinion, what I can see what AI can do today is paralegals. I don't know if they're really necessary in the future. Yeah. And not only that, many people have fears about losing their job. So the connotation was a little bit negative. It was not positive. It was immediately to the discussion also that Elon Musk started about where it can go in the future. What I believe, what we have tested, and we were going really, really deep into that, it's far away. It's really very, very far away. So the fears that has been spread out led to the people, oh, it's uncontrollable. AI is uncontrollable. And one day AI will make a decision for me that I don't like. Yeah. So come on. In my opinion, this is really off the cliff at what I can see technically at that moment. Could it go there one day in a couple of generations? Maybe. But look at this. I think at the beginning of some of the industries, maybe this is a good comparison. In the old days, or 100 years ago, we moved the body. First, we moved the body to the Iron Lady. Yeah. Then we moved the body to the cars, and then we moved the bodies to airplanes, and maybe in the future we move the body to rockets that we are fast from one place to another. Right now, we can move our minds, and this is what people are having anxieties and fears. And I strongly believe it's about the uncertainty. It's the uncertainty that's out there, and also that not a lot of people explain what can happen. And think about of the air industry today. you cannot start your little airplane in the backyard of your house, yeah, and fly around in Los Angeles, for instance. There's rules and regulations that we have embedded on the airports and the airplanes and everything. And I think that is what needs to be done in the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then we have an industry that helps us. So I am more on the side as a technology company, what can be done, and not so much about the fear that is spreading out around. And I feel, wow, there's tremendous things that I hope we can talk about in the future, in these sessions later on. I am very, very positive about the stuff that can be done and not so much negative. And we should take away, summarizing that, away the fear of the uncontrollable, oh, am I losing my job? No, maybe you can do something else, or the uncertainty. And hey, change is coming. We all have to change.
Yep.
So let's be open to that.
Yes. And I would say there's probably somebody in LA who's tried to fly their airplane out of their backyard. Come on. And okay, Shanif, so you've been doing a lot of practical work on this. So let's. How about you? How can salespeople use their company data better to handle customer questions with AI?
Yeah. Hey, John. Thanks so much for having me. Good to see you again. So, you're right. I work day to day in this. My background is an engineer, so I'm building a lot of tools that help people actually use this. I've seen a few things. ChatGPT has put out this website that anyone can go to, and you don't need any coding knowledge to be able to use it. And so, a lot of salespeople are using this now to help with their outbound if they're prospecting, and marketers are using this for their inbound. From the outbound side of things, a lot of folks, I think somebody mentioned, they're using it to write emails and do this more efficiently. One of the past companies I work with focus heavily on personalization, but personalization at scale is hard to do, or at least it has been hard to do until now. Now what you can do is feed in somebody's LinkedIn profile or an article they wrote, and then start to come up with sort of personalized, high converting emails that salespeople can send out. And if you're doing this as a manual step, it's easy to copy and paste. I'm building tools that let people do this automatically. And so from the perspective of an outbound salesperson, you're going to start to see a lot more personalization and a lot more automation at scale that people can start to use. Much as Scott mentioned, this stuff is coming, and it's actually sort of happening now. And then on the marketing side, I'm seeing a lot of marketers who focus on content use ChatGPT to sort of get past the writer's block when it comes to thinking about ideas or things that they can write about, and also using ChatGPT to come up with outlines and sometimes even the whole content. I shy away from that because I think that the stuff that ChatGPT puts out for long form isn't very compelling, but you're starting to see people use this tool as a framework for doing their existing jobs. And I think that the folks who lean into this are going to be able to do their existing jobs a lot more effectively than folks who might not use it for that right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. By the way, thank you to our audience. I have to show this quick comment that came in. Harrison Ford landed on the taxiway at John Wayne Airport in Irvine.
I remember that.
Not the runway. So thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve, for that. Scott, coming back to you. Let's talk a little bit about your concerns, if any, about the first to market. What might happen because of the rush, the land grab.
Yeah, and kind of balancing out what Nicholas was saying, it's not necessarily fear-based, like, oh, Terminators are going to come get us, but this hype cycle that's going to happen. A handful of years ago, this happened with chatbots, where everyone thought chatbots were amazing, and then we ran into the limitations of chatbots. We got disillusioned, and we all kind of threw them away and disliked them. And rather than doing this, what could we use this for? How quickly can I have an ebook out there? How quickly can I stand up something that's white labeled? How quickly can I just grab market share and eyeballs? Instead, to be just a little bit more considerate. Like Ryan's list that he gave, it is a list that's like, this is value that he's found, right? And obviously a great list. What we're seeing is the thing that we keep seeing in a hype cycle, where people are jumping to, ready, fire, aim. And I think right now, I'm not saying we need to have a 6-month wait on anything. I'm saying we're going to have a lot of disappointed, disillusioned people because they believed an overhype on something that is incredible. This stuff that we're getting with LLMs and image generation and these tools are absolutely great, but they've really only been out for 6 months. Let's give them some time to finish baking and let the innovation happen organically and intellectually instead of just, hey, how can I get something out yesterday, throw something out that's a B minus, and then run a B minus company. Let's take time to use these tools to get A's, because to Ryan's point, we now have abilities we did not have before. We can do things amazingly. So let's just lean into that and say, let's make the best stuff and find the best use cases of this rather than what's the obvious lazy stuff.
Yeah, and just a quick other thing, Scott. So you're doing some work on AI and empathy. I thought
Yeah.
that was fascinating. If you just give us a quick insight into that.
Yeah, the net of the whole thing is soft skills and strategy. Speech is a behavior. So the same way that Amazon can say people who shop for this also look for that, or Netflix can say people who like these movies enjoy those shows, our system can say people who speak like this, think like that, and do these types of behaviors. And so if we can look at a person behavioralistically based on their speech patterns in a minute of speech, we can create that customized output. We can create that soft skill. And that's what good salespeople do. They read the room, they get a sense of the person they're talking to, and they customize their message accordingly. Well, that's what AI can do now. And we have an API that plugs into LLMs. So a lot of people are saying, okay, how can we use this tool to create better outlines? Like everyone else was saying, it's true. That's a great tool. And to Shanif's point, like the long form is a little generic and it's a little dry. But if we can create a psychographic profile on the person and say, this is how this individual wants to be treated, this is how committed they are and where they are in a sales process, that means you're creating customized messages the way a person wants to be treated. And whether that for clinical or sales, what we're doing there is meeting a person where they really are, instead of just saying it's company centric or product centric. It can go back to being customer centric communication.
Cool.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I love that. Love that. That's awesome. And then Ryan, so as I said, so as companies are adopting this, the ones you're working with, what impact are you seeing actual impact on revenue, and what does that impact actually look like?
Yeah, well, is it cool if I add something to what Scott was saying? Because
Oh
I
no,
think
please, absolutely.
he nailed. This is like a real life example that I experienced of someone not talking to me the way that I wanted to from a sales perspective, and it made me want to like literally jump out of a car. And it was when I went to go buy a car. Actually, I am like a high D profile when it comes to like the disc profile communication system, and with a secondary I, right, is I would say my second primary, if you will. And I had a car salesman try to basically sell me like I was a C, which was conscientious, right? So basically, he just detailed the hell out of me and just kept talking and talking and talking. And I'm like, I can't imagine anything else I want to do besides jump out of this car. And so to put it in like very, very simple terms, I think that's what Scott's talking about, right, Scott? With like how to communicate to a person the way they want to be talked to.
Yeah, if there's a person who's clearly bottom line, big picture, I know what I want, just give it to me, and you're going to talk past the sale for 5 minutes. You're just gonna annoy that person. And it's so great that you could just have a tool give you the heads up as a salesperson. Hey, this guy's a high D. Don't treat him like a C. Do this, not that. That's actually exactly what my company Cyrano.ai does. And Ryan, you and I've talked about it a couple times.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, just wanted to call that out because it was something that I've lived exactly what Scott was talking about. And that's when you have buyers that are like, I've seen it where people on the sales team will start pitching them and then they start looking at their phones and ignoring you within like, 30 seconds. It's because they want the executive high level summary. And I think that's what Scott's solution does. So anyways, going back to your question, John, to circle back, I think like, one of the things like for revenue, like it's really interesting because most like I've interviewed, I think it's over 200 SaaS CEOs over the last year and a half, right? On my show. And Nicholas was one of them, which was awesome. And so one of the things though that strikes me as weird is most tech companies are solely using it for their product. Okay. Which I think is right. It's the right way to do it, but it's only half the equation. The other half of the equation is like, what's an organization's largest expense? It used to be real estate. Now that's cutting back and it's labor. It's labor and real estate, right? So imagine if you enabled your workforce to basically be sales AI enabled, right? Or just AI enabled if you're talking non-sales roles, and effectively increase the output by 30% of what your entire organization is doing. If you're a $10 million company, that brings you to 13 million without changing anything else, just by giving them the skills and the capabilities, by educating them what's possible, and then really giving them either the tools and I should say it's not just the tools, it's the tools and the education on how to create useful business cases. And that's where I see a lot of organizations really, really missing the mark, because that's going to really transform the landscape of what's, competition, and it's going to be table stakes pretty soon. So
Excellent. And by the way, it's great that you've got two of the greatest salespeople behind you there, Michael Scott and Dwight.
and then Tommy Boy is the third
Yeah.
one up there, right? I got Dwight K. Schrute, and then thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And Nicholas, talk a little more about how you see the impact of AI in sales. I mean, we talked a little bit about those people who think that AI is going to replace sales, but talk about how you see it really happening.
Yeah, in the B2B area, it's impossible to replace our salespeople. So forget that. This is, in my opinion, off the cliff. There, these comments. I like what Ryan said in that area, or how you can better implement it. And you with your team and in our company, we implemented immediately 14 different AI tools, or to make so many other things are better in our processes, in the efficiency, and in really using AI not only in the product but also in our whole environment. And this is fantastic. I'm so thrilled about that. Yeah, but also what Scott said, and is the learning. Is the learning of the salespeople. I'm looking forward, because you see, one thing is experience. Or let's be honest, when you get older, or you have more life experience, you would not or jump into a meeting and talking to a CEO differently, or you should not talk to a CEO in the same way as you're probably talking to a person who started in the company two months ago. Yeah, so this is social skills, and if AI could help me to enlarge my skills, and be better educated and getting in this learning environment, then this is fantastic. And I hope, to be honest, worldwide, when we're really speaking about that, if we could see, let me phrase that a little bit in this way. If we could see that AI could help us to become so-called better intelligent humans, my goodness, what would that be for the world? Because not one single problem that we have today in the world, real issues, can be solved from one entity, from one city, from one country. It has to be solved together, in collaboration and in coordination, and definitely in cooperation. And we see exactly the opposite. If AI could help us to get smarter in that area, think about the topic of environment or immigration or healthcare, whatever. If it's only one entity doing, we are not going there. So what I can see for sales, maybe you guys remember this beautiful series. I fall in love with that when I'm immigrated to the States from Austria, Vienna, with Suits. Yeah, maybe you remember Suits, and Harvey. Yeah, and Harvey had one thing that I'm looking forward to have that for myself. Harvey had the best secretary in the world, Donna. She knew everything. She knew exactly what ticket she should buy for his clients. She knew when their appointment is coming. She organized that. If that, this would be for me the perfect AI tool for the future for salespeople, to have the best secretary behind me. Hey, you have to think about this. You have to do this. You have to call this person. Or here you have the tickets. Here you have to. are really are the supporting structure. Think about that. That would be for me something that we don't see. I haven't seen any solution on that at this moment, but this is where it could go for not only for sales, maybe for everyone in the world. Yeah, but this is where I would see enormous growth rates and things that we really would bring it down to the fact that we can help salespeople or we can help everyone. So there is a long way to go. Right now, we implement whatever we feel, what is immediately an asset to our company, to our customers. And we got tremendous positive feedback about the AI tool that we brought in for helping salespeople writing emails. Yeah, because it's a problem for a lot of the people. And so I think this is where I can see where AI could very fast in the next couple of months, or even in the next 2-3 years can go. The next is what we will implement. It's about speech recognition, and the speech is not recognized only, but you can optimize that. And so going step by step in this direction. But my idea is about Donna.
Yeah.
I want Donna.
Well, actually, Nicholas Wolfgang agrees with you here. He actually thinks that when you build that tool, you should call it Donna.
There you go.
I was also wondering if if that was created, would you give it different personalities for different types of people? Like, would one person maybe need an assistant who was good at giving them a kick up the whatever now and again, or does somebody else need something that's a little bit more nuanced? How about you? How about you, Shannon? If we were talking a bit about using generative AI, how about using it for personalized content for customers?
Yeah, and before I jump into that, I wanted to. I just was watching Suits about a year ago, and so Donna was the perfect secretary. And what's interesting is now, one of the things I'm doing is building what's called an autonomous agent, something that has access to all of your email and your calendar. And I think that this world, Nicholas, is going to come in the next maybe 12 months, 24 months, where you have an agent who's sort of tied into everything. And then, John, one thing I wanted to comment on, I think that the sort of the theme that we're seeing here is AI as a tool. It's not going to replace you. It's not going to maybe it'll do some things here and there, but if you know how to use it as a tool, you yourself can get really good at your job and become way more efficient, and that will help you throughout your career. And I think that that's the thing that I've noticed as well when I implement AI for a business. The employees start to use it a lot more, and they're able to get their jobs done. So I just wanted to make those quick points, and then I'll circle back to your comment about, I think it was related to content. How do you start to use AI to create content? We've had a couple of examples so far. I think it sounds like you guys implemented an email tool where you can start to use AI to send better emails. And this is sort of the quintessential use case when it comes to sales. How do you get an email across that's likely to be opened, likely to turn into a demo? It's very hard. I used to work at a company where we would send a couple thousand emails, and that might turn into 1 or 2 demos. And the reason it's hard, as I mentioned earlier, it's really hard to create an actionable personalized email. And I think that AI is going to help with that. I'm starting to see tools now where they plug into your email tools and they plug into your customer CRMs, and you can start to create automated emails. I think that you can also start to do things, a couple of folks mentioned Midjourney. There's a lot of really interesting stuff being done with images. One of the things that I have seen work well in sales is that you film yourself, actually, if you're maybe a website agency, for example, you film yourself looking through your customer's website and you say, hey, this looks good, but I think I can probably improve this. Now, those convert pretty well. Those convert at a 3 to 5% rate, but it's really, really hard to do those at scale. So you can start to use AI to automatically generate these sorts of videos. So from the perspective of content generation, we're seeing the early sort of tip of the iceberg phase where people are using it to do the obvious low-hanging fruit stuff, creating these blog posts or creating these social media posts, which is fine. They don't have a lot of personality to them, but they'll do the job. But I think that in the next few years, you're going to start to see personalization take hold, and you're going to start to see what's worked with traditional sales methods, but maybe hasn't been scalable. You're going to start to see those become more scalable. And so that's some of the things that I'm excited about from the world of AI in general. But again, you're not replacing, especially in the world of B2B, you're not replacing salespeople. You're giving them the tools that let them do their job better, because ultimately
Absolutely.
a sale is human to human, and people buy because they are talking to someone who understands them. So I think that's the key point of today's webinar.
No, absolutely, and just and maybe Scott, a question for you as well is there's a lot of, I mean, this is open to everybody too, because this is probably the central question a lot of people have is, okay, who's doing it, who's creating it, and are the people creating it going to have an outsized impact on what comes back out? And I think that's one of the big fears that people have is like, who's behind the curtain?
Yeah, and I think we should be concerned about that to some degree. I mean, we saw what Facebook and YouTube and all that have done to the mental health of young people in our country, in TikTok, Instagram, and I'm not saying there's villains in those companies. They're all just people who are wanting to make amazing products, and some of the things haven't gone well. Some of the things are just, sort of middle children of history, learning curve moments. But some of those things are awesome, amazing tools. And so we have to balance all this out and knowing who's in charge of it, because ultimately the AI is going to optimize for the outcomes of the person creating it and what they want. And so having that right alignment from the beginning, and when everyone's talking about alignment, it's not just about the alignment between the AI and the human race. There's also alignment between the creator and the customer, and making sure we have human to human alignment as we're adding that AI. So there's actually 3 points: 2 humans or 2 companies and an AI. So you actually get a better through line instead of just 2. So thinking through who's in control of that is really important right now.
Yeah. I would add to that a little bit also from another side, or in my opinion, uh, if we have exponentially growth right now in many areas into technology. That is frightening on the one hand, but it's also a positive challenge. I would see, I would like to see the same challenge to us as humans, because we have to change. We have to change how we adopt and how we learn. We have to learn faster. On the one hand, for instance, in the school, you learn only to do all by yourself. You have to study by yourself, the exams, everything, and you have to be perfect in what you do by yourself. When you enter in the work life, you have to learn to collaborate. Most people don't know how to do that. Most people are bad in this. And this is why we have so many problems around the world. And as I said before, we have to solve these problems because this little planet is very small, in my opinion, compared to the universe. And it doesn't make sense that we are just constantly fighting with each other, because it doesn't produce any good results. It doesn't produce prosperity. Yeah. And so I feel we have come a long way right now, since we started with technology, and we still are in the same room of the people that have started technology, but it took us thousands of years to come even to to have what we have today. And when I'm thinking about going backwards a little bit, when I started my career and I worked with Apple in Europe and brought Apple Computer to the university, especially in the medicine area, in the cardiology, I remember there was a professor where we had the first computer in one room, and a couple of rooms further down the road, we had another computer, and I brought together the first phone net to connect these 2 computers. And we were screaming over the floor, "Have you received the file?" So this is 50 years ago, or 45 years ago. And now we are speaking about months. You said you will come up with a donor in 12 months. Wow, I'm looking for Donna to have her next to me in 12 months. But you see but we as humans, we have to learn to adopt it also, how to cooperate, how to collaborate with each other. And this is a learning curve too, where AI could be helpful, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we've come a long way where now if you send me a file and it doesn't appear in a nanosecond, I'm irritated, and I think the world has gone mad and everything is slowed down. How about Ryan, from a sales management and coaching, because I always think that is one of the biggest gaps that we have. That it's good sales managers, good sales coaches, and if you have a great sales leader who's a great coach, that's a fantastic revenue multiplier. How do you think AI can help the sales leader?
Yeah, I've actually been excited about this because I've been digging into this deep, and I'm actually in the process of building an AI product right now. And one of the things that I think is super interesting is just based on, I mean, if you just look at it from its core principles, effectively the large language model of ChatGPT took everything, I don't want to say every single piece of data on the internet, but a massive scale of data from the internet from September, I think it's September 2021 prior. And so that's a massive area to pull from. And the thing that I think folks could use it for in terms of education and coaching is to decrease ramp time in terms of speed, right? It might take 3 to 6 months. You can effectively do that if you create it in the right way of creating a learning plan within, I don't know, a month. If you do it effectively, I think there's opportunities for that. I think there's ongoing opportunities of combining data with that knowledge skill set to provide personalized training at an individualistic level that sales managers don't have the time to kind of scope out and manage. So I think that's another opportunity. So yeah, I think there's a lot of really, really strong use cases within that, just because of the fact of if you know and have domain expertise and know the right questions to ask, you can extract amazing information in seconds, literally, to create training materials that normally they wouldn't have the time to do, create, learn. And this is particularly for organizations, I would say, probably sub 100 million in revenue.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, thank you. And by the way, Steve's on a bit of a roll here. Nicholas, apparently up in Maine, he's still using strings and tin cans. He's not even leaning over the desk and shouting. How about you, Shanif? How from a salesperson point of view, what do you see the kind of the uses or the tools that they can use to make themselves more efficient?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm coming at this from a different angle because my background is software engineering, and when you start a company, you have to learn how to sell. And so I'll tell you some of the things that work for me, especially in a small business perspective. I think that anything that makes my life a little bit easier, where I can implement processes or systems, is something that I gravitate towards. So from a sales perspective, right now, what I've actually started to do is try to use it to identify valuable responses for social media. So for example, I get a lot of my business from LinkedIn almost exclusively. And part of engaging on LinkedIn is coming up with the right comment or the right value add. You don't want to just hit like on someone's post and leave it at that. And when you do this many times a week, 50 or 100 times, your brain starts to get a little burned out. And so from my perspective, just going on to something like ChatGPT's website and saying, hey, what's a decent response to something like this, can help a lot. I also do a lot of writing and content. And so content generation is also something where if you can start to hit writer's block pretty quickly. So from my perspective, a lot of my leads come inbound. And so maybe it's a different use case than maybe the traditional prospecting use case. But from my perspective, being able to build relationships with people where I'm still the one who's going out there, reaching out to them, talking to them, but I'm trying to add value to their posts or to their lives is sort of where I'm using AI tools to help. That being said, I am a builder and I build a lot of automation technologies. And so one of the things that I am looking to do is build apps on top of ChatGPT. And some of these apps are these sort of automated agents which will connect into my email and do things like maybe help me find the right email from 2 years ago, or help me find the right perspective that I need to send. One of the things that people really ask me to do is build a search engine that goes over all of their internal tools like Slack and email and product documentation so that they can respond to a customer very quickly. So for example, sales guys, this is a tool I'm building now. Salespeople might need to respond to their customers very strange and unusual questions in a very short amount of time. And a lot of times what they're doing is they're calling their manager or they're Slacking their manager behind the scenes and asking if they can find a particular response. And what I'm doing now is just building bots that help them connect their product documentation or their support documentation to their existing chatbot so that they can ask the question right away. And then the bot is responsible for finding the right answer. So it's a long way of me saying, when I can add automations to my workflows, my existing workflows, to make me more efficient, these are some of the tools that I think salespeople are going to start to incorporate. I think things that make their lives a lot easier, things that help them communicate with their customers a little bit more effectively and efficiently. These are the sorts of things that people, especially consultative salespeople, are going to start to use a lot more. And I think you're going to start to see the really great salespeople use these tools to even increase their close rates. And the really good marketers and the prospectors start to increase their open rates for things like cold emails or cold calls.
Just a quick one, Scott, as well. Who's going to win the battle, the AI battles between all the giants going on? Somebody just asked in a question around, because understanding which one is better, which is real, which is not outdated, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, I think it is a mistake to think of a single AI winning, or that there will be one sort of mothership AI that we interact with. I think it's much more reasonable to think of this as there will be millions, like literally millions and millions of individual AIs that we interact with that will be specialized for different things. So whether that's, OpenAI powered by Microsoft, or Google with what they're coming out with in the next couple weeks and months is apparently going to be amazing, or whoever the big player is. I don't think it's going to be giant versus giant. I think it's going to be more foundation models that get built, and then we will refine and tune and customize individual deployments. So in the same way that there's HubSpot and Salesforce as CRMs, and Pipeliner and all these different companies, you don't say, okay, well, there's only one winner. There's all these different companies that do it. You can say, look, this is the way it's going to be. There's going to be a whole bunch of different features, a whole bunch of different reasons that a different value prop wins in this tool versus that tool. I don't think it's going to be a winner take all scenario.
Yeah, I would agree with that totally, because not only that, and therefore I would vote it even, the more the open source community is involved, the better it is. Because you see, in that moment, we have right now over almost 100 million programmers alone on the open platform, GitHub, and it's growing because the young population that comes out right now and growing out of schools and universities, they are joining. So we will see very soon, in let's say 10, 15 years, probably 200 million people. Therefore, I agree with Scott completely.
Can I add something too? I think,
Yeah.
like it, and this will bring it to real world. Like as of right now, like today, July of 2023, one of the things, like if you look at ChatGPT, it's better for creative writing and strategic thinking, I think, and creativity. And then if you look at Bard, like Bard is Google's basically ChatGPT version, right? There's some really, really good use cases for like to the second research capabilities. Now, ChatGPT used to have that, but they just disenabled their browser because it was going behind people's paywalls. So I think Google's got a step up on that because they have a really large collection from all the search data that they have. And then there's like Claude, which is Anthropic's large language model that literally just got released. I think it was yesterday or the day before to a public beta. And that's really interesting as well, because that's got, there's limits to ChatGPT's like language length in terms of pages of data. And that has like exponentially more capacity. So kind of just to tap into like a couple of use cases that I'm seeing just across those different, and then compound it with niche language models. And then I think that gives a little more illustration of what kind of Scott was talking about.
Yeah. And if I may, Claude's a great example there of like what Claude is. It's a large language model, but they put really interesting guardrails on that and really tuned it in a way that's optimizing for like customer service and support and those kinds of deployments. And so you look at that as a perfect example. And Ryan, you're right. Looking at Bard versus ChatGPT, that's where you're seeing flavors and companies saying, this is what we want to specialize in and optimize for. And I think the smart companies like Google They've been working on this in secret for a long, long time. I mean, DeepMind and those sort of labs that they've been doing. So that when they bring out their next tool, that I'm blanking on the internal name of it, but that's going to be a product that they're really proud of, and that it's going to really make waves. Anthropic, I think, did a great job as well. I see that as the good version of what the next year and a half looks like.
I think it was Donna. Donna was the name, I believe.
Yeah, there we go.
Copyright. No. It's copyright by
I haven't seen Suits yet, but I had to do it. Now you intrigued me to go check it out. So
yeah, you should.
I'm gonna check it out. Got to find out who this Donna is.
Well, interestingly, my son, who's 18, just moved in with a bunch of his buddies, and he told me last night that there's 5 of them, and 2 of them sit on the couch and binge watch Suits every night. So Suits just seems to be. I've got to go check it out now.
Is Suits a sponsor, by the way? Like,
I don't know. I'm going back to them after this and looking for some sponsorship.
Just making sure.
Yeah. As we have about 10 minutes left on this session, I wanted to do is give each of you kind of an opportunity to maybe put get out your crystal ball and sort of give us your prediction, or where you think this is going, where AI is going to go, or the best place you think it's going to go. So anybody can start.
I'll jump in.
The 2 most valuable places in the world to go. Sorry, Shanif, go ahead.
No, I'm going to give you sort of the typical geek answer, which is I think we're heading towards the Star Trek computer world, where you got these machines that can totally understand you and do your bidding, but they're sort of in an ideal world, which I think we're gonna reach. They're not going to do anything evil, and they're going to have a lot of guardrails. I think the next 12 to 24 months, like I said, there's going to be this plethora of, I think, Scott, you said it, millions and millions of agents. What I call them agents, like these autonomous tools that are doing your bidding for you. They're going to have the ability to know, hey, look, when you tell me to send an email to John Smith with his most recent invoice, they're going to know how to create that invoice, who John Smith is, how to send him an email, and they're going to be able to do all of these different things for you. I actually think that's coming sooner rather than later, probably because I'm building it. But I think that we're heading to a world where these autonomous machines are specialized for different use cases. They can also be specialized for more general sort of helpfulness. And we're going to start to have these tools available for us to do a lot of our either hard work or tedious work for us. And that's sort of maybe it's an ideal scenario, but that's the one that I do think that we're going to get to.
Yeah, fun. I love the Star Trek reference. We're going to boldly go. Actually, I was telling Nicholas the other day that my father, God rest him, he used to, whenever Star Trek came on, he didn't really watch TV, but all he did when they say to boldly go, he would say that's grammatically incorrect. It's to go boldly, and then leave the room.
You need the adverbs after. Yeah, he's right.
Yeah. So, Scott, what's your predictions?
An optimistic one. I think the 2 most valuable sets of conversations humans are really having these days are in education and healthcare. That's where you're going to create the biggest arcs and changes in a person's life. And so to have tools that are helping, I mean, nobody who's reasonable is arguing that teachers have too many resources and that kids are learning too much. And so if we can give, I think what Khan Academy has just created is the beginnings of what we're going to have, where every single kid gets a perfect, customized, always ready to help tutor for them. And, Cyrano's got tools in it where we can analyze a person's learning style. And so we can tell you a person's learning style based on a minute of their speech. And so if we could just give that to every teacher and say, hey, based on Johnny's homework, you want to use, graphs and images, not stories and metaphors, as a lazy example. And so I see education getting a huge boost. And then obviously healthcare. If we can build tools that help people to be more on track with their treatment plan, whether that's medication management, whether that's getting them to do their physical therapy or their behavioral change that they need to do to get better, those sorts of tools that help the physicians and the medical staff impact change more effectively and interface with those patients.
New medicine, come on.
Yeah, and it's also just such scare. I mean, we've all had a friend or family member have a devastating conversation with a physician, and then they have to remember it and apply stuff. And I think those conversations, having tools that help everyone in the room really understand what's going on and what needs to happen next. I see those two things as being where it's not the day-to-day moment, the healthcare stuff for most of us, but those are going to be the big, thank God that tool exists now kind of things that we're going to have. And then education can be the day-to-day.
Excellent, absolutely. By the way, we do have the Trekkies out in force today, and somebody from the safety and security, they want to know when they're going to actually put seatbelts on the Star Trek bridge. There you go. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, something I'm excited about, and here's a real quick analogy. It's kind of like when, I don't know, maybe in the 80s or the 90s, which depending on the age, you might or might not realize this, but to look up information and have access to data, you would have to go to the library, look at the Dewey Decimal System, look in the card catalog, and it would take, I don't know, 30 minutes just to find like potentially something that's available, and then it's not there. Like same thing with like renting movies back in the day. You used to have to go to the movie store and hope that they have the new release, and then they don't, right? And then you have to wait 3 days for it. And now we go to streaming, or you type in a couple keystrokes and you have access to information or movies. So I look at that same thing happening with outcomes, right? Where there's going to be a premium and massive opportunity for people that are creative and really, really think through a creative lens, because then they could just dictate the outcomes they want from the AI, kind of like Jarvis. Not to quote a Star Trek reference, but let's go Marvel, right? Let's go with Tony Stark and Jarvis, where you can say, these are the outcomes I want. This is the order, and then it happens for you, right? And that could be like, for example, to bring it to real world sales and marketing is like, okay, I want this exact target market with this demographics, this company revenue range, who is having these problems. I want you to identify that, pull that up, create a 5-step email sequence, emphasize this and this, and then provide metrics and execute it over a 30-day period. And it's all done for you versus all the tactical nuances that you have to do that. So that's what I'm excited about seeing that, because I'm a big outcomes person. So I love the fact that I could be like, boom, go, and then it happens. So that's my take on it.
Excellent. All right, perfect. And Nicholas, if you can stick in a Marvel reference as well, that would be good, just to keep the flow.
Help a brother out. We got Donna, we got Star Trek, we got Marvel. I mean, or you come up with a new one. That would be cool too.
Oh, wow. I want to see this also from a perspective more on the anxiety and not on the fear side, because I'm excited about what is possible. And I strongly believe that the human race in itself has the option to make a decision for the positive side. And when I remember last week when we were marching with our dog in the Palisades, or on the 4th of July with all the people, what I saw, happy people were cheering, were positive, were for each other. This is the mindset normally, yeah. And I think AI could help us or to get to the next level. There is a lot of problems that we can solve. Let's start by the little ones and let's go then step by step to the next one. But I'm going on vacation back to Europe, and I know there is right now a war that is absolutely not necessary, in my opinion. And there is a lot of issues that absolutely needs help in so many areas. Yeah? AI could really, as Scott said, are perfectly, in my opinion, not only on the healthcare, on the education side. We have to educate the people more. Or like Ryan said, I have access to this information. Come on, if we look at that, and we access right now all the information about let's say, what happened. And I'm as positive as Shanif in that area. There is thousands of programmers that are coming out right now with solutions to bring us to the next level. Let's think positive and use that. I don't see the dark angel anywhere who is using that in a negative sense. And if we are here, we can interfere, we can do something against that, we can stand up, we can make regulations, we can help that. So I'm positive. I want to stay positive. I want to see problems solved, realistically problems solved right now, make my life better. And then we go to the next step. So I'm very, very positive. Like this, it's inspiring, this meeting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We communicate, we try to get the best out of it, and we make the next step. This is progress.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, we're bumping up against the end of this, so I want to thank each of you individually, Scott, Shanif, Ryan, and Nicholas. Such fantastic insights and sharing such great insights with everybody. And I agree. I think the future's bright. Maybe we need to wear shades. I just love all these crappy 80s references, but anyway. Um, so for anybody under the age of 30, you won't get that one. But I think it's fantastic, and I just want to thank everybody for offering your expertise today, and to the team behind the scenes here: Claudia, Martha, Milos, Marek, and Jocelyn. Everybody who helped put this event together. We'll be doing more of this. Out of this, we'll be producing a short white paper, and you'll have all the contact information for the individuals on this webinar today. I would encourage you to go and check each of them out individually and the work that they're doing, because as you can tell, everybody is really hands-on and a practitioner. All right, so thank you again. Thanks, Nicholas. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Shanif. Thanks, Scott. Thank you for watching and listening across all of our social platforms, which has been fantastic. And we will see you again for another great panel discussion really soon. Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you.